They say wealth is about hard work, smart choices, and maybe a little luck. But what if I told you that your bathroom, yes, the room you rush through every morning without a second thought, might be playing a bigger role in your finances than you realize? This isn't superstition, and it's not about crystals or candles. It's about energy, specifically how certain overlooked spaces quietly shape the way money enters and stays in your life. In Feng Shui, water represents wealth, and the bathroom, it's the most water-dominant room in your home. Every flush, every drain, every unnoticed drip sends a subtle message. Energy is leaving. Over time, that message becomes a pattern. You work hard, but the money doesn't stay. You focus, but momentum feels scattered. What if there was one small thing you could do, something practical, subtle, and free, that could help shift that flow? Today, we'll talk about a simple item you probably already own, and why placing it in the right spot could change more than how your bathroom looks. It could begin to shift how your space supports your stability, financially, emotionally, energetically. You don't need a renovation, just a small adjustment and the willingness to see your space differently. The quietest room holds the loudest message. Most people think wealth is about numbers, how much you earn, how well you save, what you invest in. And yes, those things matter. But there's another layer most of us never consider. It's not about income brackets or budgeting apps, it's about energy. Specifically, the energy of the spaces we live in, the ones we move through every day, half awake, half distracted. And there's one room that often holds more influence than we realize: the bathroom. It's the room we rush through in the morning, maybe clean once a week, and rarely think about beyond function. But in energetic terms, it might be the most powerful space in your home because it's where water flows. And in Feng Shui, water is wealth, not just symbolically, but energetically. Water carries movement. It represents flow, momentum, possibility. So when that water constantly moves out, down drains, out faucets, flushed away without pause, the message your space is sending isn't subtle. It's loud. It says, let it go, let it leave, let it slip away. Over time, this becomes more than plumbing. It becomes a pattern. You might notice it as money that comes in but never quite stays, raises that don't translate into savings, opportunities that start strong then stall. And yet we rarely look to the room itself. We don't ask how the environment might be amplifying that sense of loss. Because the truth is, the bathroom doesn't just process water, it processes energy. And if that energy is unbalanced, if the space feels dim, forgotten, or constantly in motion, it creates instability far beyond its walls. Here's the good news: you don't need to renovate. You don't need to buy luxury fixtures or redesign your space. What you need is one small, intentional act. One change that reclaims the message your bathroom is sending and replaces it with something grounded, stable, clear. The shift begins with a towel, not just any towel, but a soft, muted yellow one. In Feng Shui, yellow represents the earth element, and earth in its purest form balances water. It absorbs, it contains, it grounds. When you bring earth into a water-heavy space, you're not decorating, you're recalibrating. A simple yellow towel placed near the mirror or hung with care becomes more than a household item. It becomes a signal. It tells the room, this is a place that holds energy, not leaks it. It says, wealth is welcome here and it has somewhere to land. Still skeptical, that's fair. But energy isn't about belief, it's about patterns. And whether or not you buy into Feng Shui, the truth remains: your space is speaking. Every object, every corner, every habit sends a signal. When your environment reflects chaos, clutter, or constant outflow, your nervous system picks that up. And when your space offers grounding, containment, and care, your mind and your money respond in kind. This isn't about magical thinking. It's about designing your surroundings to support what you want more of. So ask yourself, does your bathroom reflect the stability you crave? Does it invite clarity or confusion? Is it a space that restores you or one that rushes you out the door? Most importantly, what message is it sending when no one's listening? Start with the towel, but then look deeper. Is the lighting warm and consistent or dull and flickering? Are the drains clean and clear or clogged and ignored? Is there a scent that soothes or the faint trace of bleach and mildew? These details matter, not because they impress anyone, but because they shape how you feel. And how you feel shapes what you choose, what you allow, what you keep. Wealth isn't just about how much comes in, it's about how much stays. And for something to stay, it needs a space that welcomes it, that holds it, that says quietly but clearly, this home knows how to keep what matters. So the next time you walk into your bathroom, pause, not to judge, not to fix, just to notice. Because the quietest room might be the one that's been shaping your energy all along, and maybe it's time to let that energy finally stay. The power of one soft yellow towel. Sometimes it's the smallest shift that makes the biggest difference, not just in how your home looks, but in how your energy moves through it. If your finances feel unstable, if money comes and goes without rhythm, if peace seems harder to hold than chaos, the solution might not be another spreadsheet or side hustle. It might begin with a towel. One towel, soft, clean, muted yellow, placed with intention in the most overlooked room in your home. This isn't about decor, it's about balance, because in energetic design, what some call Feng Shui, every item carries a message. And in the bathroom, where water is constantly moving out, that message is often one of loss. You flush, rinse, drain, water leaves. And water in this language of energy represents wealth. If your space keeps sending the message that energy is leaving, that message begins to echo beyond the pipes, into your thoughts, your decisions, your bank account. That's where the towel comes in. Yellow, the color of earth, is grounding. It tells the space, hold, contain, support. When you introduce earth into a water-dominant space, you're not changing the plumbing, you're changing the pattern. A yellow towel folded near the mirror or hung with care becomes more than fabric. It becomes a signal, one that interrupts the quiet outflow and anchors something new. It says, this room no longer lets energy slip away unnoticed. It says, I am ready to keep what matters. This might sound symbolic, it is, but symbols are how we speak to the unconscious. They bypass logic and go straight to behavior. When your environment reflects grounding, you begin to feel grounded. And when you feel grounded, you make clearer choices about money, about time, about what deserves your energy. The yellow towel doesn't fix everything, but it starts a conversation your home has been waiting to have with you. A conversation about containment, about respect, about not letting the most important things in your life, clarity, focus, wealth, leak through tiny cracks you never thought to seal. And yes, a towel alone won't change your finances overnight, but placed with presence, it begins to shift how energy behaves in your space. Because now your space is participating, it's holding, supporting, offering stillness where there used to be constant outflow. And your nervous system, your mind, your habits, they all respond to that shift. This isn't theory, it's pattern recognition. Over and over, people who take this step, who place something soft, stable, intentional in the bathroom, report more than a visual change. They feel calmer, more organized, more capable of staying focused. Sometimes a job offer follows, sometimes a new idea, but more often what follows is a quiet return to clarity, the kind that allows wealth to stay instead of rushing out with everything else. So why yellow? Why earth? Because what water needs isn't more water, it needs containment, structure, a steady edge. In nature, rivers carve through soil, lakes are held by land, water moves, but earth gives it form. The same principle applies here. A soft yellow towel isn't rigid, it's not harsh, but it represents enough grounding to remind the space and your energy that not everything is meant to be let go. Some things are meant to stay, to settle, to grow, and maybe that includes your financial momentum. Maybe that includes your peace of mind, so you don't need to redecorate, you don't need to overhaul your life, just place the towel, one small act done with quiet care, then step back and watch, not for magic but for message. What shifts when your space stops whispering leak and starts saying hold? What opens when your home stops rushing and starts rooting? You don't have to believe in Feng Shui to believe in rhythm. And the yellow towel, soft, simple, steady, is how you begin to change it. Gently, powerfully, from the inside out. The 3 silent leaks you didn't know you had. You can declutter your inbox, you can track your spending, you can even read 5 personal finance books in one weekend. But if your environment keeps sending out a signal of loss, if your home quietly whispers leak while you're working so hard to hold things together, then the progress you're craving may always feel one step behind. The truth is, your space carries messages. Not just through big design choices, but through the small, repeated signals most people never notice. And nowhere is this more true than in your bathroom. It's not about how clean it looks, it's about how energy moves there, or more precisely, how it escapes. That's why today we're focusing on 3 silent leaks. They aren't loud, they aren't dramatic, but they're quietly shaping the way your energy, your attention, and yes, your money behave. These aren't metaphors, they're patterns, and once you see them, you can shift them. Because fixing a leak isn't about patching the problem, it's about changing the message your space is sending every single day. 1. The flickering light that mirrors indecision. You walk into the bathroom and the bulb takes a few seconds to warm up. Or maybe it flickers a little when the fan is on, or maybe it's just a bit too dim, casting shadows under your eyes no matter how early you wake up. You've meant to change it, of course, it's on your list, but it still works sort of. Here's the energetic cost. In Feng Shui, light is more than illumination. It's life force. It's yang energy, active, expressive, decisive. A struggling light source in a yin-dominant room like a bathroom sends the exact opposite signal. It says uncertainty, hesitation, fog, and over time that fog moves from the room into your habits. Decisions feel harder, focus gets scattered. The day starts with a pause you didn't intend. Financially, that energy shows up as hesitation before taking action, missed opportunities, or a general feeling of I'm stuck. But when you shift the light, when you replace it with something warm, stable, and consistent, you do more than brighten the mirror. You create a daily reminder that clarity is possible, that the start of your day can be clean, calm, and supported by intention. And your brain, your body, and your money start to respond accordingly. 2. The hidden grime that holds what you haven't let go. Most people think cleanliness is about appearances. A sparkling sink, a tidy shelf, a fresh-smelling soap. But in energetic terms, dirt isn't about what others see. It's about what energy can't move past. That tiny ring around the faucet, that spot behind the toilet no one ever sees, that neglected corner where dust always collects no matter how often you sweep. These are what we call dead Kai zones, energy that's stuck, unmoving, and quietly blocking your ability to feel mentally clear and emotionally light. In life, this shows up as decisions that don't land, ideas that feel half-formed, conversations that trail off, even income that seems to arrive but not stay. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's that your environment isn't fully aligned with flow. And cleaning in this context becomes more than a task. It becomes a ritual, a physical act of saying, I am willing to release what's no longer needed. Especially in places that are easy to ignore. Especially in rooms where water, wealth, is meant to move. Vinegar, salt, citrus, these are not just ingredients, they're allies. As you clean, focus not just on what's removed, but on what you're making space for. A new idea, a new sense of calm, a clearer connection to what matters. 3. The subtle sound of wealth slipping away. There's a sound you may have gotten used to, a soft drip, a slow gurgle in the pipes, water that doesn't quite drain fast enough. Or maybe it drains too fast without any sense of pause. These small plumbing quirks are easy to overlook. They're not emergencies, but they are messages. In the language of energy, water is wealth. A slow leak isn't just wasted water. It's a signal of resources escaping drop by drop, hour by hour. It trains your subconscious to expect loss, to normalize it. And over time, that shows up as a sense of always trying, always doing, but never quite getting ahead. The solution isn't just mechanical. It's energetic. Fixing a drip isn't just about conservation. It's about containment. It's about telling your home, I'm no longer leaking energy. And if the leak is symbolic rather than visible, like the way your energy drops after showering or the way you avoid looking at yourself in the bathroom mirror, consider what's flowing too fast, what's not being honored, what part of your energy is being flushed away before it can even take root. One way to reverse this: pause. Before you run the water, say quietly, this water carries away what I no longer need, and it makes space for what I want to stay. This isn't woo-woo, it's neurobiology. When you create pause, your brain starts paying attention. And when your brain pays attention, your energy shifts. That shift is what wealth needs in order to stay, not a tighter grip, a clearer container. What happens when you seal the leaks? When you address these 3 silent leaks, light, grime, and water flow, you don't just clean your bathroom, you recalibrate your space. You stop sending out a signal of constant outflow, and your nervous system picks up on that. Suddenly, your home becomes a place where energy is held, not lost. Where clarity is the norm, not the exception, where money, peace, and presence have somewhere to land, and you begin to notice the difference not in big, dramatic ways, but in soft, steady shifts. The morning fog lifts faster, your thoughts feel more anchored, a bill gets paid on time without panic, a new opportunity lands with less resistance. These aren't coincidences. They're consequences of a home that no longer leaks the very energy you've been working so hard to hold. So take a quiet moment today, walk into your bathroom. Look not just at the surface, but at the signals. Is your light consistent? Are your corners clear? Is your water flowing the way you want your money to? If the answer is no, you know where to begin. And if the answer is yes, then anchor it, celebrate it. Make it part of a rhythm that says, this space supports my stability. Because the real power isn't in the towel or the fix or the faucet, it's in the awareness. And once you have it, even the quietest leaks lose their hold, because now you're listening, and when you listen, your space listens back. 3 bathroom habits that quietly sabotage your wealth. Most people would never think their bathroom habits have anything to do with their finances. It seems far-fetched. After all, what does flushing a toilet or tossing out trash have to do with income, savings, or stability? But if you believe that your home holds energy, if you've ever walked into a space and felt either calm or drained without knowing why, then it's worth asking, what signals is your bathroom sending every day without your permission? Because while you're focusing on budgeting, investing, or trying to stay on top of life, there may be quiet habits within your home that are undercutting all that effort. They don't feel dramatic, they don't look chaotic, but energetically they speak. And what they're saying may be, this space doesn't support containment. In the language of Feng Shui, that matters because wealth, focus, and clarity don't just need action. They need anchoring. Today, we'll look at 3 everyday habits most people don't think twice about, habits that might be quietly encouraging financial instability, mental fog, and emotional exhaustion. The good news is, once you see them, they're incredibly easy to change. 1. Leaving the toilet lid open. It sounds small, it feels unimportant, but in Feng Shui, the toilet is one of the most significant energy exit points in the home. It's the physical place where waste, both biological and energetic, is removed, and like any gateway, how it's treated affects how energy moves. When the toilet lid is left open, every flush becomes a full release, not just of water, but of energy. It disperses, scatters, and symbolically says, what comes in won't stay. Over time, that subtle signal becomes part of your energetic field. You may start noticing that you spend before you save, that money comes in but doesn't seem to build, that ideas flow but don't stick, and it's not about the action of flushing, it's about the unconscious message that loss is normal. Closing the lid before flushing isn't superstition, it's discipline. It's a small act of respect for your home, for your energy, for your ability to contain what you've earned. It says, I close the cycle, I honor boundaries, I don't let things escape without intention. It's a habit so simple it takes less than a second, but done consistently, it begins to rebuild the muscle of containment that prosperity depends on. 2. Using an oversized or lidless trash bin. Trash is necessary. Life includes release. But in the bathroom, one of the most energetically sensitive spaces, the way you handle trash reveals how you handle what no longer serves. Oversized bins, especially without lids, send 2 signals. First, they say, I expect to accumulate a lot of waste. Second, they say, I don't mind if that waste stays visible. Both of those messages affect your relationship with energy, especially in a space meant for renewal. A trash bin that's too large suggests that clutter is inevitable, that life naturally produces more than you can process. And a bin without a lid means that residue energetically and sometimes literally lingers in your awareness. You may not see it every moment, but it's there, shaping how you feel about your space and yourself. The fix is easy. Use a small bin with a lid, something neutral in tone, proportionate to the room, and cleaned regularly, not just when it smells. Let it become a ritual object, not just a utility. Wipe it down with intention. Place it with care. Even in removal, there can be dignity. And when the energy of waste is managed with respect, the energy of wealth becomes easier to hold. 3. Keeping dying or unfit plants in the bathroom. We all love the idea of greenery. Plants symbolize growth, life, vitality. But in a bathroom, a humid, often low-light, fluctuating environment, many plants don't thrive. They stretch, yellow, mold, or drop leaves. And what began as a symbol of wellness slowly becomes a symbol of struggle. A dying plant says, life can't survive here. It tells the space and your subconscious that the conditions aren't right for stability or growth. That message, repeated silently every day, undermines your confidence. You might feel hopeful in one area only to second-guess yourself later. You might start projects that lose momentum quickly. You might dream, but not act, and none of it feels obvious, just a quiet undercurrent of something's off. The truth is, you don't need live plants in your bathroom to create vibrancy. If the conditions aren't right, opt for high-quality artificial plants that bring beauty without decay. Better yet, consider other earth elements, stone trays, ceramic holders, small bamboo features. These materials ground the space without risk of withering. They say this environment is steady, this energy is maintained, and they do so without the emotional weight of watching something you once nurtured slowly fade. Why these habits matter. Each of these habits might seem insignificant on their own, But habits are how energy moves. They are repeated signals. And in a space as intimate and energetically potent as the bathroom, those signals become scripts, quiet patterns that shape how we think, feel, and behave. You want your home to say, I know how to hold what I've earned. I trust myself to contain value. I release only what no longer serves, and I do it with care. These are the qualities that support financial steadiness. These are the invisible foundations that help abundance stay. When your space echoes those values, your nervous system begins to align. You move through the world differently, not more perfectly, but more presently. And in that presence, your decisions sharpen, your results stabilize, your wealth begins to feel like something you can trust. Start small, stay consistent, watch what shifts. You don't need to overhaul your bathroom to shift its energy. You just need to notice what you've overlooked. Close the lid, rethink the bin, replace the struggling plant. These aren't design tips, they're energy corrections. They're reminders that how you treat the unseen, what happens behind closed doors, shapes what the world reflects back to you. Because energy doesn't just follow effort, it follows environment. And the more your space says, I am ready to hold, the more your life begins to follow that script. Reprogramming the room, visual balance, scent, and stillness. Your bathroom isn't just a room, it's a rhythm. And whether you realize it or not, that rhythm sets the tone for how your day begins, how your energy flows, how your thoughts take shape. Most people treat the bathroom as purely functional, a place to get ready, rinse off, and move on. But in energetic terms, it's something much deeper, a space that mirrors what you're willing to hold and how you carry yourself through moments that no one else sees. And here's the truth most people miss. It doesn't take a full remodel to shift a room's energy. It takes awareness, intention, a few grounded changes that gently reprogram the space to support stillness, clarity, and presence. The first way to do that, create visual balance, not just style, but symmetry. When a space looks lopsided, one towel flung over a hook, clutter crowding one side of the sink, shelves that lean too heavily in one direction, it creates micro-disruptions in the nervous system. You may not notice it consciously, but your mind does. It registers imbalance. And imbalance, repeated daily, breeds a subtle sense of disorientation. But when you introduce symmetry, matching jars, two towels folded evenly, two candles flanking a mirror, the space communicates coherence. And coherence calms the mind. You start your day anchored, your body relaxes, your thoughts arrive with more order, less effort. Next, shift the mood of the room through scent. Not artificial sprays or overpowering cleaners, but subtle, natural aromas that speak directly to the emotional body. Scents like lavender, sandalwood, and orange peel don't just smell nice. They signal the brain to slow down, to focus, to release. These aren't luxuries, they are tools, because scent bypasses logic and goes straight to memory, to instinct. A warm towel infused with essential oil, a diffuser placed thoughtfully, not hidden, a drawer sachet that surprises you with calm. These small details add weight to your presence. They say, I tend to the invisible. I treat small moments with care, and that care radiates outward. Finally, cultivate stillness not as silence, but as space that breathes. The bathroom doesn't need to be sterile or bare, but it shouldn't feel crowded either. Every item should earn its place. Visual noise, too many mismatched bottles, scattered objects, or decor that lacks cohesion creates energetic static, and static interrupts your ability to feel settled. Stillness doesn't mean doing less, it means making room for what matters most. When your eyes can rest, your nervous system follows. When your space holds less clutter, your thoughts hold more clarity. Visual balance, scent, stillness. These aren't aesthetic upgrades, they're energetic corrections. They gently tell your body, your money, your mind, this is a space where things align, where flow is calm, not chaotic, where arrival doesn't rush. When your bathroom becomes a place of balance, the rest of your home begins to reflect that order. And your life, it responds too, not with big declarations, but with ease, with mornings that feel grounded, with thoughts that land, with choices that don't fight for attention. You don't need to chase wealth, you need to create space for it to stay, and that begins quietly here. Final, if you've made it this far, it means you're someone who doesn't just want change, you're someone who's willing to pause and listen, even in the quietest corners of your home. And maybe now your bathroom doesn't seem so ordinary anymore. Maybe you're starting to see it not just as a room, but as a rhythm, a space that speaks, a space that holds patterns, habits, signals, some supportive, some silently draining. Throughout this journey, we haven't talked about wealth in numbers, we've talked about wealth in patterns, in the way your light switches on, in the way a towel is placed, in the stillness between scents and sounds. Because the truth is, the most powerful shifts often begin in the invisible, in the way a space feels before it changes how a life unfolds. Science tells us that our environments shape our behavior. Neuroscience shows us that visual clutter increases anxiety. That routine, light, scent, all of it feeds into how we focus, how we decide, how we feel at home. Feng Shui isn't magic, it's just a language of placement, of energy, of permission. And today you've begun speaking that language, one towel, one light bulb, one pause at a time. So thank you for watching, for reflecting, for being open. You're not just changing a room, you're changing your relationship with space, with energy, with what you allow to stay. May your home become a place where energy flows but doesn't slip away, where clarity rises but doesn't fade, and where wealth, in whatever form it matters most to you, finds its way in and feels welcome enough to stay. Take your time. You don't need to do it all at once. But maybe tonight, when you walk into that quiet room, you'll notice something different, a softness, a shift, a whisper. This space is starting to remember who you are. And maybe, just maybe, so are you.